how miraculous you are. Your existence is literally a miracle that has happened for potentially billions of years up until this point. And to think that you're anything less than miraculous and less than amazing is a huge disservice to yourself. All right, welcome back to the Atlas Hour, episode 17, everybody. How's it going, Josh? What's new with you?
Nothing, man. Just glad we made it through a week. A little
Yeah,
tired
me too.
today.
Yeah, it's
Long one for
Friday.
you too, it sounds like.
Friday, 5 a.m. right now. For those listening, it's when we do these is super early. Yeah, it was a long week, but it went fast. Having that one where we did Jason Khalipa in the middle of my patients just broke up the whole week, which was kind of nice.
Yeah.
So I'm a workaholic for those listening. I literally work 7 days a week, and I don't know. So days go long. Like it's never, my weekends are lighter, so it's good, but I don't have a lot to look forward to because there's never like a day off, But breaking that up with, we did Jason Khalipa kind of midday between patients. It was nice. I was like, oh, it's Friday. That was quick.
Yeah, as Adam was saying, he is a workaholic. There's never a weekend for him. It's Saturday, Sunday, still seeing patients. So he, never gets much of a break. He makes me feel lazy quite often if I take any
Nah.
time off. So,
Well, you have more fitness than I do, so you just have to. You can put your effort and energy into different buckets.
Absolutely.
I think
I thought the Jason interview was awesome, though. I'm really excited to share that one too.
it was good. I like. I listened to Goggins recently talking about like having to pull back on success, or I forget what the term he used, gauge success or govern his success in some ways. And basically he was talking about the things that he wants to be doing in his life is action. His success is reliant on going on podcasts and everything, and he doesn't necessarily want to be doing that. And so he pulls back on his success in order to do the things that he wants to do, like running and fighting fires and all of that. I thought it was interesting. Because that's, right now all of my time and energy and stuff is in the success bucket. Eventually I may need to pull back on that to focus more on family or fitness or whatever. Right now I feel like it's all pretty evenly dispersed, and luckily my family in Victoria and everything understands where I'm at, so I don't have to pull back too much on it. But there's a finite amount of time, and we can all gauge, where we want to put our energy into which bucket.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a good perspective because it's really hard, I would say, especially for guys nowadays. Like, I feel like there's even like some external pressure to just like grind all the time. And almost like I even get challenged with that sometimes, like feeling guilty, I guess, that like there's a part of me that just doesn't want to do that. Like, I do want to do the extracurriculars through fitness, hiking, time with my wife, and just enjoy those things and not put so much emphasis on my career. But I think I told you my boss was in town the last couple of days, and we went out to dinner with him last night. And he's been with J&J for a long time now and very successful. And he even was saying that he's kind of had what he would refer to as a midlife crisis recently, along the same lines of like, hey, these career aspirations that I had, like maybe that's not exactly what I want. And he started allotting more time to his kids. Now they're growing up very fast, spending a lot more time with his wife. Just things that he's like, I wasn't putting emphasis on before, but those are the things that truly make me happy and what I want.
Yeah, I think the trick is, if you can do it, obviously the hack is to find pleasure in the work, which I do, because I gamify my success. And so I gamify making certain amounts of money and everything. And it brings me a lot of pleasure. So, I'm lucky in that way. But yeah, there still needs to be a balance. And I made a post about that this week, where talking about like savor every moment, because it could be your last, and I think it's true. And sometimes I do focus too much on the future. Like, how can I save up every last cent right now? Because in the future, but none of that would mean anything if I walked out and got hit by a car. It's always a hard line. I struggle with that one a ton, because I don't want to just YOLO life, like, oh, I could die tomorrow, and so I'm going to be frivolous because what if I don't? But I also don't want to save everything, and because I might not have in the future, but what if I die? Like, it's hard. You don't know. I think there's got to be some balance. I'm still very new in my life. I'm just now hitting my professional stride, and so I haven't really worked that out yet. I think I have, but we hold back a lot. We live happy and comfortably. We certainly live well below our means, or yeah, below our means. Yeah, significantly below our means. We probably spend like 10% of our income, which is crazy for people. Um, where we could spend more, but I don't know. How do you feel about that? Where are you guys in your life? Are you more on the YOLO side or the plan
I
for the
think you
future side?
I think we're definitely planned for the future side, kind of like you and Victoria are in the sense that definitely, live our life very frugal. Even like the wedding reception that we did last weekend was something that was kind of very humble, small get together. And just it's we kind of just view, I guess it's the delayed gratification like we've talked about, like, hey, we're still early on in our life as far as like a couple and building for the future. And if we take the right steps for the first 5 years, we can set a foundation to where like we don't have to be as crazy frugal as life goes on, and we can cut loose a little bit more, or just have the means to, do what we want without really having to question it or consider it so much. So I guess just laying healthy habits early on from a financial standpoint is not necessarily a bad thing. So, but to your point,
Do
there's a
you
balance on it.
do you guys ever feel like restricted, like you're unhappy due to having to hold back sometimes? Is there anything that you guys really want that you don't get and feel like it sucks?
Uh, to be honest, no, not really. I mean, item wise or anything that her or I ever want, I mean, we have the means to go buy. And if there's things that I want, through hobbies, or different items or things that I find pleasure in, I'll go buy them. But I'm
Mhm.
just not somebody, and she's not somebody who puts a lot of emphasis on that as it is. So I don't really feel like we feel restricted in that area. Maybe like traveling and things like that. But we also always have the conversation that I think some of that needs to be earned too. And we both kind of feel like we're in that earning process of like, hey, we're doing the work now. So again, eventually we can do those things and not really have to stress about bringing the finances together to make it happen.
That makes sense. Yeah, I feel the same. I think our main thing, like I don't even know,
Yeah.
if we were gifted like $4 billion right now and I just would never have to work another day in my life or save a penny and I could waste money and be rich. I don't know what would change much. I think
Hmm.
maybe we travel more, but our routines would probably still be the same. We still like to go out on the weekends to get good coffee and like a nice breakfast, and it's probably as much as we would do. I think the one thing that would change more is like it would be no hesitation when Victoria wants some clothes or something, or if she wanted like a nice purse or something. Where now we're like, we just can't fathom why. And I don't know. I don't even know if she would want to spend money on something extravagant, even if she could, because a lot of times we're like, that's so stupid. Why would you buy a
Hmm.
$5,000 purse? It just doesn't make sense, you know? Um, so I don't even know it would change that much. I think it would just be nice to know that you would never run out,
Agreed.
because right now I guess I operate a little bit in fear, which isn't the best, like in, what if I don't have this in the future? So let me like, store up my nuts right now. I'm like kind of like a squirrel right now. Like let me do as much work as I can and save for a day. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's now that I'm thinking about it, saying it out loud, maybe it's not the best mindset because with everything that I preach about how important our mindset is about our, what we can basically, manifest, which is a tricky word for me, but if I'm thinking that, hey, there's a possibility that I might not have in the future, that's a limiting mindset.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough. See, I'm kind of articulating my inner battles right now. These are my shower thoughts.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I mean, I feel like so many guys probably struggle with it, wanting to live a little more freely, but then running into the wall of like, well, I can't yet, or I haven't in quotes made it. But it's like, what really is that point where you cross over and think I've made it anyway, or you let go of that fear because, as we know, there's guys that are 30x our income that probably still live along those lines of like
True.
being fearful of losing it all tomorrow.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like right now, if I step back, I'm like, okay, I've made it. My salary is really good.
Hmm.
Like, I talked to you when you and Abby and Victoria and I were together. Like, I often forget, like, oh, I'm that kind of like rich person now.
Hmm.
We're in that demographic, but I don't live that way and I don't feel that
Hmm.
way. I kind of have the scarcity mindset of like, I came from nothing, I don't have anything, and there's a possibility I might not have anything. And I wonder if I would thrive even more if I thought I'm super successful and I'll always be successful. I'm not afraid of that because I know that I will have something. And I have that in there. Right now, there's probably like 60% of that and 40% fear, because I think, what if everything that I'm doing now collapses? And I think
Yeah.
like, I don't think I could go back. I don't think I would. I don't think I would allow myself. I've been successful with everything up to this point. I have a stack of victories that I look back on and go, oh, I've done that. I've done that. I've done that. And so I know that I'll be successful in the future still, but there's still 40% of me that goes like, what if it all, I think like, man, what if I moved to Dallas, and then what if Merrick's not around and I left everything that I have here in my practice? Like, but then I got to, reel myself back and go, no, I'll be successful. I have, I blindly moved out to Michigan and everybody thought I was going to fail, and I've thrived, and I could do it again, and I will do it again if need be. So, okay, I guess I just worked that out that was my
in real time.
Yeah, that was my own cathartic session, but it's always something I battle with is what is my mindset limiting me? And I think that it limits a lot of people. That was actually one thing I wanted to kind of dive into today. I wanted to talk about this earlier, but we've had other guests on, so we haven't been able to talk. But on Monday, I made a post about just trying to give people confidence. I basically said, like, it's Monday and that sucks, but you can do it. You can get through it. And the reason I said that you could get through it is I said, you're the product of over 4 billion years of evolutionary success. And so if you believe in evolution, over 4 billions, if you believe, in Christianity, maybe the world's 6,000 years, even 6,000 years of evolutionary success is a massive feat. And I think we often forget that about ourselves. Like, there's a lot of people who maybe haven't had successes yet that they have, like I said, that I can look back on stat, but then like you are successful. Your existence is super successful. If you think about it, like, holy shit, I'm a powerful being. And then I posted that reel, and then I posted a story that I saw of somebody where they kind of did a visual of like sperm fighting for it, the egg implantation. And that's insane to think about, like you are the successful one out of millions of little cells that were all fighting for one spot. And like you won that marathon before you even knew it, it's crazy. And then have you ever seen The Watchmen?
I have not, but I know what it is.
Oh man, you need to watch that, man. It's a graphic novel first, and then they made a
There's
movie.
a movie and an HBO, right?
Oh yeah, there is an HBO. I forgot
Yeah,
about that.
yeah. That's
Yeah, the show's
it's like
actually
a
pretty good
series
too.
on HBO too, right?
Yeah, the show's
Yeah.
actually really good too. I totally forgot about that. That's weird. I can't believe I forgot about that. But the book and the movie are definitely like I almost like know the movie by heart. I'm a nerd like that. But I posted this quote and just kind of wanted to read it because it's badass. This is like a part of the book where there's this guy, Dr. Manhattan. He's kind of the lead character. He was a scientist working on nuclear physics of some sort. And he accidentally gets locked in like this nuclear chamber while he's doing his experiment, and it basically like explodes and he's in it. And then he kind of emerges out of it as this like omnipotent being where he can see the past and the future. He's like the alpha and omega. Like he's basically a god at this point. And he's have you what I'm talking about, the blue creature where he's like naked and jacked and he flies around and like, yeah, he's badass. And he's got
I've
the
seen
hydrogen.
the movie. It's just, I don't remember like all of it. It's been so long. Yeah.
Yeah. He's got the hydrogen symbol on his forehead. He's just awesome. And he's kind of like, he kind of forgot what it was like to be a human. And he's kind of been used by the Americans at this point. Cause it's back, like it talks about the Vietnam War, and the Americans won the Vietnam War in that because they had him. He's just like, went out and mass slaughtered the Vietnamese because he's, omnipotent basically. And then he realizes like humans are just so evil and corrupt, and he's been used in a way that he didn't even know he was being used in. And so he takes off to Mars, but he's in love with this girl on Earth, and he's up there in Mars, like all alone. And he brings her up there. He teleports her up there or something. And I forget what the kind of catalyst is why he starts thinking about it, but for some reason she's crying. Oh, I think she found out who her dad is. Her dad was like this terrible man who raped her mother. She doesn't know that until later. She finds out she's like the product of rape. She's crying about it. And then he kind of looks at her and he has like this epiphany because he's given up on humanity. He thinks it's just stupid. And then this is what he says. He says, thermodynamic miracles, events against the odds so astronomical they're effectively impossible, like oxygen spontaneously becoming gold. I long to observe such a thing. And yet, in each human coupling, 1,000 million sperm vie for a single egg. Multiply those odds by countless generations against the odds of your ancestors being alive, meeting, siring this precise son, that exact daughter. Until your mother loves a man she has every reason to hate, the guy who rapes her. Um, and out of that union, out of 1,000 million children competing for fertilization, it was you and only you that emerged to distill so specific a form, that form of chaos of improbability, like turning air to gold, that this crowning unlikelihood, this thermodynamic miracle. And then she says, but if my birth, if that's a thermodynamic miracle, then you could say that about anyone. And he says, yes, anyone in the world. But the world is so full of people, so crowded with these miracles that they become commonplace and we forget. I forget. We gaze continually on the world as it grows dull in our perceptions. And yet and yet seen from another's vantage point, as if new, it may still take your breath away. Then he says, come, dry your eyes, for you are life, rarer than a quark and unpredictable beyond the dreams of Heisenberg, the clay in which the forces that shape all things leave the fingerprints most clearly. Dry your eyes, let's go home. So he takes her back to Earth. That, I feel like Chuck choked up reading that, because just incredible to think how miraculous you are. Your existence is literally a miracle that has happened for potentially billions of years up until this point. And to think that you're anything less than miraculous and less than amazing is a huge disservice to yourself. And before I start crying, I'll let Josh
No.
give his opinion on that.
And it's funny because I have to be really honest. Her response is normally how I've always kind of responded whenever I hear people say that, or have heard quotes similar along those lines. Like, yeah, but I could say that about anyone, right? But I like his rebuttal that, no, it's just we've all become accustomed to it because there's billions of people, and you forget how miraculous it is that you even made it through. I guess what's it called? The evolutionary hurdle to even get here, and just the process of life itself as you develop in the womb is, we not even going down that tangent, is incredible in itself. So
Yeah,
I think it's really easy to get out of that mindset nowadays, because it's just like a world where it's so easy to do a comparison literally all day. My wife and I were even saying it last night that I have even these people that I follow or look up to, or some people that you don't even know and you never will, but they have such a focus sometimes in your mind of you're almost doing well, I need to get to where they are, not really just sitting there and being well, I'm fine where I am, I'm doing what I can. I should be proud of what I've accomplished, and really easy to not have that mindset. And maybe we would all be a lot more successful and happy if we did just kind of focus and give ourselves that own pat on the back.
exactly. I mean, I love that. Like I talked about, looking at past victories gives you confidence. And we all know that,
Hmm.
you're always afraid to do something for the first time. And if you succeed in doing it, then you go back with a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
That's all, yeah, I mean, how many half marathons have you done now?
4 or 5.
Yeah. So you probably wouldn't hesitate if I said, hey, Josh, do you want to do another one? Because
Hmm.
you're I've done 5 of them. I have a lot of confidence to do so. And so a lot of people hold themselves back because they don't have what they feel like a victory yet. Like I said, there's even some people who haven't even made it through high school. They don't even have a high school diploma, and they're thinking, how could I ever be Grant Cardone or, all of these people that they see on, I'm not that person. But then I just kind of think well, what if you step back and go wait, I am pretty fucking awesome. Just the fact that I exist is pretty freaking cool. And then even think of all the things that you do. I mean, even if you're making it in the world, at some point you're still existing without your high school diploma. That's pretty cool, right? You can always find victories in yourself, I think, that will propel you to succeed in some arena.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was cool. And I don't think that we focus enough on how special and unique of beings that we are, and how miraculous that we are, and full of victories we are just inherently.
Yeah. No, I mean, because dude, I've told you before, it's definitely something I struggle with a lot, as far as even just imposter syndrome sometimes with things dude, am I just a fraud, bullshitting my way through things, and are people gonna find that out and be I don't know, reveal that about me? Because again, this internal game of well, I'm not what that person is, or I haven't done what they do. So why do I have the right to be able to be where I am now, or to have that level of success that I'm wanting? So yeah, it's a really hard struggle, I think, for a lot of people. And again, probably be a lot happier if we could all just level set and realize that, hey, where you're at right now and the things that you're doing day in and day out, like that's going to lead to some level of success. And like, who defines that anyway? Like a lot of that is societal as far as what we deem as successful is anyway. But maybe having your own definition of what that is based off of what makes you happy, would be a lot easier path to follow.
I mean, and another thing that I think is important to remember, like you said, society is going to, put this on you, but I don't even think it's society; it's yourself.
Sure.
Victoria and I had this conversation, a long conversation the other night about like we're extremely self-important, all of us. Like, and I was telling her, I'm like, when I walk in the gym, in my mind, every single person there is stopping what they're doing and looking like, what's that guy wearing? Does he look big? In reality, no one there knows I'm even
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
Maybe I'll get in somebody's way and they'll say, excuse me, and they'll acknowledge me for 2 seconds. And then they probably forget instantly. But in our minds, we're all so self-important. We all think that everything that we do is under the microscope and everybody's looking at us and everybody cares, but they really don't. I mean, even these days, people are like, we put everything on social media, but still, I can't really tell you any posts that I saw yesterday.
Yeah.
Like if I actually think about even the ones that I liked, no, like Otter, and I don't know. I just don't care about humans. And knowing that, I know that other people don't care about me. And then when you realize that, which is extremely hard to do, and I'm not there yet, I'm far from there. Like I said, I still have this. Every time I walk into a room, in my mind, I truly believe that I'm super important to everybody, and everybody is looking at what I'm wearing and how I'm talking and how I'm standing. I'm always thinking about how are people perceiving me. But once you realize that people just don't give a shit about you, it's freeing and it
Hmm.
allows you to do a lot more in life because, a lot of people are like, well, what if I fail? I mean, we're watching this Netflix show right now, like How to Get Rich. Have you watched that at all? You guys seen
I've
that?
seen it though.
Yeah, I mean, we watch it every now and then when we have like when we're sitting eating breakfast or something. So we're taking forever to get through it. It's not amazing, but anyways, I'll put that aside. I forget. This girl wanted to she's part of a multi-level marketing scheme. He's telling her to get out of it, and she's like, talking about, well, this is like my identity, and I'm embarrassed if I say that I quit something. I'm like, no one even probably knows you fucking do it. I mean, I'm sure, 99.9% of your followers on Instagram have no idea that you work for J&J.
Yeah.
Like if you lost your job or got quit, or if you were like, I'm going to go out on my own, no one would know or care,
Yep.
and so don't let what you think that, don't let you think you have all these expectations or people have expectations of you, but they don't. So don't let that hold you back,
Just what you've put on yourself.
exactly. Take a chance.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter if you fail or not. I mean, it doesn't matter if you win. People will see you when you win, but again, they're not really going to care. They'll be cool and move on,
Yep. Well, and I
So
think a lot of what you're speaking to also is just like the death of your ego, as a whole. And for Atia actually talks about that a lot in that new Outlive book, with his mental health thing. That he's like, he's very obviously, for people that know Peter, like very type A alpha personality, hyper successful, hyper driven to be. And he's like, I always had this idea of like I wanted to leave a legacy, behind for next generation, my family. And he's like, that was kind of my biggest hurdle, is realizing that like, dude, nobody gives a shit. No matter how successful I am, sure, maybe I'll be remembered in textbooks or mentioned, along with, X study or whatever it is. But like at the end of the day, my immediate family are probably the only people that are going to remember me forever for their whole lives. So the
yeah, and
quicker
then they're
you
going to
get,
die.
yeah, exactly. So the
They'll probably
quicker
die
you,
within 50 years of you, and then
hmm
after that, you're forgotten. I don't
hmm
know my great grandpa's name.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
And even the people that we would think of nowadays that do have like a legacy, that are figures in history, like that's just our idea of who they are. Like nobody physically knew them, right? So it's like, again, everybody that knew you will die one day too, and that'll be the rest is history. So I think that's like a very, as you were saying, hard thing to come to grips with, but also kind of freeing at the same time of like, yeah, that's right. Like I don't have to be so self-important or so important to everybody else in the world. Like just the people that are in my immediate group and love on them and, do everything I can to help all those grow in my immediate circle. And that's about it.
Yeah, I think like Hormozy said it best, and he talked about the Queen of England. He
Hmm.
said like this is somebody like in our lifetime probably the most successful person, like basically owned a country, had wealth beyond anybody else, one of the richest human beings in the world with all this royalty and everything. And then she died, and he posted a thing like like 4 months later saying the queen died 4 months ago. When's the last time you thought about her before this post?
Yeah.
And it's like that's true. Like I
Yeah.
haven't thought about that person. And so even like what does legacy mean? Like I don't walk around thinking every single day about Abraham Lincoln or something.
No.
It would have to be brought to my attention. So it's yeah, it's a freeing thought for sure that yeah, you've he also says like you've been dead before, basically, you know what being dead is like because it was before you were born. There's nothing that
Hmm.
said it's going to happen again. And so like we just have this little time in between. So why would we focus on all this minute BS of like what does somebody think about me? Just like find the thing that makes you happy, take the chances that might make you happy, and I don't know, go on. Again,
Absolutely.
extreme, well, way easier said than done, but we're all working on it together. I mean, I think if he was being honest, he would say he probably struggles with it too. He comes off very cocky and arrogant, but I'm sure he battles his own demons in that
Yeah.
because it's hard to find that level of bliss.
Yeah. Well, and that's funny you say that because Abby and I were saying that same thing last night with, just from a smaller level, like me struggling with like comparing to other people. But I'm like, she even was saying like those you look up to that are hyper successful do the exact same thing, just with a different group of people. And like that just kind of continues to go on as you move up, I guess, in quotes, the ladder. Your just level of who then you continue to compare yourself to never changes basically. And you're never happy if that's the reality that you continue to live in.
Yeah, for sure. I've done a lot of hard things in my life that I didn't think that I'd be able to. And
Hmm.
I don't know, I just yeah, it's hard not to have that imposter syndrome, but then I almost do the opposite too. I don't and trick myself. Or I don't know what I kind of have a false confidence sometimes too, where I try to like I almost have to be overtly cocky and confident to
Hmm.
counteract that, because I'm like, no, fuck that. Like I'm not, I did the work, I can do this. Or I don't know, I've used so many different mind tricks, like I've said, like going through school, I know that stupider people than me have done this. I can do this too, things like that. And it's true. Like you just have to find your own ways to counteract the very limiting mindset that we all have. I mean, like, you dealing with thinking that you're not adequate enough to talk to smart people on a podcast or something like,
Yeah.
why, you
Yeah.
know, what
Exactly.
you know how to put out words, right? You know how to listen. No one said you have to comprehend and be able to like spew back the same amount of knowledge. Like just ask some questions and learn. It's yeah, I don't know. It's hard though because we all have that. I mean, I'm sure everybody listening would be like, that's stupid of you, but we all have that those stupid thoughts that limit our own behavior and our own growth. But
And
I
thinking
don't
that
know.
we just all have to be good at, in quotes, everything, I suppose. Like that, oh, I've got to be an expert in this, that, and the other, and forgetting like that it's totally fine to be in your own lane of expertise or stay in your own wheelhouse of what you enjoy or what you're passionate about. You can still learn about a million different things and just be an expert or passionate about one. You don't have to be a Renaissance man or woman and just have it all down packed and know how to do everything under the sun. And I'm definitely guilty of that, of thinking like, oh, I just need to be more well-rounded. And not that that's a bad thing to strive for. Obviously, we should all want to be more well-rounded human beings, but to a fault of like, I've got to know this, that, and the other, be an expert on finances, nutrition, working out, relationships, all that and the other. And it's like, hey, we're all trying to figure out most of those things just as we go anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, everybody is, even the experts.
Yeah.
The experts. I don't know. I like to try to be an expert in everything. I like to try to be the best that I can
Hmm.
in everything. I don't have the time to. That's for sure.
I wish I did, but yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
why
like what you're
I.
go ahead.
Oh no, I don't. I don't even know what I was gonna say. What were you gonna say?
I just really like that you're like even saying about like sometimes like leaning in. It's not being or cocky, but just leaning into confidence. Because there are moments that I like find myself to just every now and then will have that where I'm like, man, like you should be proud of that, or like, that's pretty badass that you did that, or like take confidence in that. And again, it's not like being arrogant or anything. It's just those subtle reminders of, hey, look back and like see what you've been able to do in 27 years. You're not anything special. You're not leaving behind a legacy or anything, but like you should just be happy that you've put in hard work and been able to reap some of the benefits of that, or, seen the fruits of your labor in some way.
But again, too, talking about like not leaving back legacy, what even is legacy?
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
what even is success or grateful, or greatness? Like
Hmm.
who knows? I don't
Yeah.
think there's, like we said, I mean, I don't think about the Queen. That was probably the most successful human being in our
I
lifetime.
think
And
about
she's,
her every day, dude.
yeah, or presidents. I don't even know. I don't like. Didn't This is an honest question? Didn't the senior Bush, he died right recently? I don't know. I forgot.
Within the last couple of years, he did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
see, I kind of forget. I don't even, and I can't even remember. Was he a George too? I guess he was
he
George.
was.
See,
Yeah,
like this is how meaningless they are. I don't even know his first name. And at that time, like, so he was supposedly something special, but I don't know. Maybe you
no.
know a little bit more because you're a Texan native and they're very Texan people, but it's
They are.
uh it's hard though. I mean, what is a legacy? What is success? Like, why do we gauge our actions on something like that, and thinking that we might not be able to live up to that is just craziness. I mean, look at somebody like, if you're afraid of being, like a successful podcast host or something, like look at Rogan. What he's not special in any way. I mean, he's done some
Yeah,
cool things. But he told jokes. So his lane is certainly not talking to astrophysicists and stuff, but
yeah,
he does it,
yeah,
and he doesn't understand quantum physics, but he just is a normal person who asks some questions, and and he's become successful in that. So like, it's crazy to be like, to limit yourself thinking like, oh, I'm just a dude who sells, biomedical equipment to doctors. Like, I'm nothing special. Like,
yeah.
you're you're able to speak. So have a conversation. That's the only thing you have to do. And you don't have to live up to anybody's expectations. And the cool thing about being and this isn't going to relate to any of our guests, just listen to me counseling my buddy here. But I mean, the cool thing about like being on a podcast is people listen because they want somebody who doesn't know about something to learn from somebody who does, because they kind of get to ask the questions through you. It's not really that fun if you were to like, it wouldn't really be that fun to listen to two experts in the field talk about something from the outside, because then you wouldn't learn anything,. They would be
True.
talking about. So the listener needs somebody like you who doesn't understand to learn from somebody who does, because then it gets, passed down from you to them, and they're living kind of vicariously through you.
Absolutely, man. Hey,
So there you
thank you
go.
for running me through that.
It's true though, right?
Yep, it is. It is.
Because yeah, I mean, it would be
Why
kind
ever
of
even give it
boring
a
to,
second thought? It's just a way.
yeah.
It's just such a energy suck, and I try and be mindful more and more when my wife is amazing and knows all this about me, and like her challenge always to me is like she's like, whenever you like catch yourself doing that stuff, like just write it down. And she's like, and most of the time when I do that, I'm like, God, that sounds so silly. Like, what am I even sitting here thinking about? This is absolutely ridiculous that I would even give this another thought. So like, I think for anybody that maybe not struggles with this, but just getting in your own head about certain things or questioning yourself, like sometimes just writing it out is really powerful, because seeing it in word like that kind of levels you a little bit to be like, wait a second, what am I
Yeah.
even sitting here doing?
I've never been that person to write things out, but a lot of people have good success doing that. I think it's I just kind of think about it like, well, that's stupid.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just kind of think, yeah, but whenever you're doubting anything, I mean, just think of like all the victories that you've done. I mean, just for example, like take you as a bodybuilder at, how at your biggest, what weight were you?
like close to 250, 245, 250.
Holy shit. Yeah. That's a lot of human being. Like, so at that time, if I was like, dude, I want to sign you up for a marathon, you would have been like, no,
Yeah.
tell me what you would have thought at that point.
Oh, I would have said absolutely not. Like that's not my lane.
Can you
I'll
do it?
probably
Like,
never be a runner.
yeah, if I asked you, could you do it? What would you say?
Yeah, probably not. Or at that point in
Exactly.
time, no.
Right. And then, but now look at you. Like if I told you, can you do a marathon? You would tell me, absolutely, I can do a marathon, and
Yeah.
that's only what, 3 years difference or so? How many
Yeah.
years has it been since you were
Yeah.
that big?
Yeah.
3?
Gosh, probably a little bit longer. I mean, it's about 3 years since I got into the endurance training, but 4 or 5 years since I was a brick shit house. Yeah.
Yeah. So exactly my point. I mean, like if you were to say this podcast blows up or whatever, like it would sound so silly to you to think like, I can't believe I ever thought I wasn't good enough to ask other people questions,
Yeah.
or just have conversations with people while a camera was rolling. And so when you think of that and you remind yourself like, oh yeah, I mean, there was probably a point too, like maybe when you struggled in like high school or something, I don't know if you did, just saying, and then you pass college and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I got a diploma. Like, that's so
Yeah.
stupid that I used to think that I was dumb, that I couldn't even pass algebra in high school. And then I went on to, get a degree in a science course, in a science major. It just so many things like that. And it doesn't always have to be that big of a scale, because everybody has these, just like I talked about with Kalipa, where he talked about trying to do something tough every single day. And I said, his tough does not need to be your tough. Your
That's it.
tough could literally be parking 2 spots further in the grocery lot, and walking that extra 10 feet. That could
Yep.
be a tough feat for you. If for somebody who doesn't walk very much in a day, walking 10 extra feet, or choosing to walk through the store instead of taking the cart, if you're always that person, that's a massive feat. For Jason Kalipa, obviously, he could sprint from his house to the grocery store and run through it, but we're all different, and it's all subjective, and it's all personal. So you certainly have successes in your life that you can look back on and remind yourself, I have been successful at things and I can be successful at things again. And as you move on in life, the successes are greater and greater. And you're able to look back on bigger successes, then take on bigger challenges. But don't ever think that, oh, I haven't created a $1 billion app, I'll never be good at creating an app. Like, no, you have done
Yep.
cool things in life. Just create yours right now and see what happens. Just get through that, and then it'll keep rolling.
Yeah. And I think it is something as simple as just like the small wins every day. Like we always talk about basic consistency. Like if you're doing the right things day in and day out, and I think you also brought up a good point that like somebody else's hard doesn't have to be what your hard is. Like that's all relative to where you are right now, because in 5 years, your hard's probably going to be you're waking up and choosing to do something difficult or challenging is going to look much different than it did the prior 5 years. So always like keeping that in perspective that you are progressing. It's not always going to be linear. But as long as you're like day in and day out, choosing to do the right things, putting your energy in the right places, that all compounds on itself into, whatever that may manifest for you. It doesn't have to be a multi-million-dollar business. Like it could just be a beautiful family that you raise. And like, that's your idea of what success is, or, for you, that's what gives you happiness. So, yeah.
Exactly. So go out there and be great people.
Absolutely. And thank you for that, brother. See, look at Adam counseling here. Not only a physician, but also a counselor on the side too. So,
That's right. I mean, that's why I like this, because I don't feel like I kind of hate being the expert, because I don't feel like an expert. Maybe that's my own, again, limiting beliefs, but I don't want to be. I'm much more of a learner, and I really like to
mhm,
learn. So that's why I like this, because I can talk to people and learn and grow my own self. And so for me, it seems like an easy hack to do something that I like, which is interesting too. And that just goes to the differences in people. Because for me, I think like, if I was a podcast host, what an easy thing to do, because I just like to learn and I would talk to people, and then put myself into your shoes and you're like, this is so uncomfortable. I'm afraid of this. I'm not adequate enough to talk to these people.
yep,
So we're all
yep,
different. And
yep,
it also goes to show, like, don't judge somebody and say, it's really easy for me to say this is easy and this is
yep,
fun, but you can look at it that, like, don't judge people, but also realize everybody has their own weakness. Because also, like, when I look at Josh's physique, or when he like does the runs that he do, like, that petrifies me. I'm like, holy shit, I can't keep up with that. And you do it every single morning, and your fitness is on a level that mine isn't. And I shouldn't say like I could never get there, because I believe I could. But as of right now,
absolutely.
it's certainly frightening to me,
Yep,
because I would be like, man, I'm not there. And
yep,
then that's what you're thinking about me with this. So we all have
yeah,
our own things that we're good at, or not, or our own fears.
exactly. We're all just trying to make it.
Exactly.
And if we all, I just think everyone would connect with one another a lot more too. If we all realize that like it, sit back and think like everyone has the same fears, same insecurities, just wrapped up in a different way.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's really easy to like, I don't know, lean into there's something very humbling about that. They're realizing like, hey, even if that person is rude to me today or whatever it is, like everyone has their own things that they're struggling with internally, and like I don't know, maybe just loving on people a little bit more would
Yeah,
bring those walls down and get past that.
it's true.
Yeah,
Well, I think that was a good talk. What
it
else should we
was,
talk
man.
about? Anything else we need to talk about? We only got 10 more minutes.
Trying to think. Anything new, exciting happening in our world?
I
Not.
got an espresso machine.
Oh yeah, that's right. Adam did get one, and I'm very jealous of it.
It's amazing.
Is it
I
like the
love it.
level of good that like you would go into a coffee shop like that level of espresso, or
For sure. Yeah. And I think it has to do with the beans too, because I feel like if I put like some shit Starbucks beans in it, would taste like shit
yeah,
Starbucks.
yeah.
Um,
Even though
but
you
we,
drink Starbucks pretty regularly or
yeah,
did
but it's
before,
shit. I won't ever
it
again
is.
now because I've got my own. But we bought beans from like one of our favorite coffee shops. And so when I make it, I feel like it tastes just like that. You know, like it's literally this place called Sabbath Coffee Roasters in Clawson, Michigan. And it's delicious. But now I've got that in my house, which is badass. I love it. It's
Is it
freaking
pretty
awesome.
easy to use? Like, does it grind all the beans up and everything for you, all
It
that?
does,
Or
but it's not easy. Like it's a science. I mean,
okay,
like that's going to be the tough part is there's definitely ease in ordering and picking up. And I think you pay a premium, like, you know, a coffee is the cost it is because it's not that easy. It's not like drip or you just load the thing. Cause I've got to, like this morning, I was the one who made it because, you know, you could tell neither one of us wanted to get up and make it. I'm like, all right, I'll go do it. Because it's like, all right, I got to pull out the scale. I'm back to weighing food. You got to weigh out like 18 grams of beans
hmm
for a double shot and then put it in and then grind it. And then each bean is going to be different. So you need to like, because we've been watching videos on this stuff and everything now, you've got to have like a notebook of each bean and then the grind size because there's like 30 different grind sizes. So you could
Oh
either do like
wow,
really thin, fine grind, or you could do a coarser grind. So you got to find that right grind. And then you got to grind it, which is kind of it takes like 20 seconds, but it's kind of messy too. And it's got like a little mountain. You got to lay it out and then like tamp it perfectly. And it can't be too much pressure. So you like tamp it. And then you got to, put it in and let the water seep through to pull the shot. And you've got to weigh that too. And it's got to be like a 1-to-3 ratio. So you got to like stop it when it hits, like 54 or whatever. So it's,
my brain's
not,
melting as I'm listening to you. I'm
I
like
know,
this.
like pulling one double shot takes, probably 5 minutes. So
Maybe
it's
that
not.
makes it taste that much better though. There was some effort that went into getting your perfect coffee.
Maybe so. With food and stuff, it's interesting though because I've, you know how things always like taste better when somebody else makes them, or you go to a restaurant and you're like, I
hmm
literally can make this, but it tastes better here.
hmm
I remember reading, and now it's been so long, and I don't know if it's true, but they were talking about the fact that you smell the food the entire time desensitizes you to it by the time that you eat it. So usually the person cooking doesn't enjoy the food as much as those who didn't because they're just exposed to that stressor or whatever you would call it, like immediately, at that moment where you've been, building up your tolerance to it, which is
That makes
interesting.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that definitely does. And would think too, just like maybe the effort that goes into it, just physically too. By the time you get there, you're kind of just like, I'm over it. Whereas like when you go out to the restaurants, like the anticipation of like, when's it coming? I know it's back there. When's the food coming? You haven't done anything for it. It's just you're just waiting for it to show up.
Exactly. But yeah, I'd like it. It's a lot of fun. I think I'll enjoy it from now on. I'm just now I want to try like a ton of different beans, but you also need to use your beans within a certain time period because they go bad or whatever. So I don't know, we've bought all kinds of accessories already. I've got like an air sealed thing, and I bought even special latte glasses for myself.
Yeah, yeah.
Bought shot glasses. We got everything.
That sounds on par for you. I knew you'd get all like go fully invested in this too.
Oh yeah, I
These
can't do
you're going to
anything
become an
half-assed.
expert, I would imagine, within a couple months.
Yeah, I'm already watching YouTube videos on it like every spare minute that I get, like I do with everything else that I try to do. How to pull the perfect shot. It's funny. All
Podiatrist
right, I
and a
guess we can.
barista.
That's right. I see. I won't fail. I could always open a coffee shop in the future.
Absolutely. Hey, good idea.
Well, I guess we should let the people go. Probably getting bored of this conversation. So, hope you guys liked our little rant and catharsism. Is that what it's called? Catharsism or a cathartic? Is
Yeah, or that
now
it was a cathartic
you guys got
talk.
to
Yeah.
wait. It was a cathartic talk, but is catharsism a thing, or did I just make this up?
Are you looking it up? I will if not.
Yeah. Nope, it's not a thing. I don't think there's no like catharsis is the noun. All right, sorry guys, we're doing an English lesson for you real quick. Let's see what the
And then cathartic would be the adjective, I guess.
is there a verb? I'm
I think so.
catharsing.
Just catharsing with my buddy via StreamYard.
It sucks because there's some like you can philosophize. Why isn't there catharsize?
Yeah, that's true.
I'm
Here, I'm
making it a
looking it
word,
up
and
too.
I'm gonna make catharsism a practice.
Okay.
So I've changed my. I mean, every day these days, people just make their own words. We have a ton of stupid ass words. Like I can't even think of them. What are the stupid ass words these days? Cap and everything.
Yeah, dude, when I listen to like younger kids talk sometimes, I'm like, that's not, I don't even know what you're saying. Like, that's how I know
Yeah.
I'm getting old too. But yes.
Often, like when people put comments on things when I'm on podcasts or something, or if one of my like reels takes off and I'm reading, I'm like, I don't know if this is like talking shit about me or agreeing. I have no idea right now. I really don't. But
I don't
I am
either.
going to label my own words. Catharsism is now going to be the practice of catharsizing, which is
Yes.
the new verb. All right, cool. Well,
Catharsis Fridays. Maybe we'll make it a theme.
Oh yeah, that'd
It's
be
just
cool.
where we get our weekly stresses out. Yeah, maybe we'll like have this as a recurring thing. Like, what's been on your mind this week? You tell me.
I like that. All right, cool. Yeah, let's do that. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Let us know if you want to hear more about our catharsism and listen to us catharsize on Fridays. We'll see you guys next time. The next time you see us, I think we'll be with Dr. Joey Munez. We're going to talk a little bit about nutrition. So stay tuned for that one, and we will see you guys next time.
Boom. See you later.